Welcome, my curious companions of the cosmos. Today we embark on yet another intellectual journey, this time the argument from simplicity, better known as Occam's razor. I know what you're thinking, theists using Occam's razor. Yeah, it is quite weird. Nevertheless, if we want to debunk God once and for all, we have to go through all of the arguments. Well, before we dive in, let's give a brief history of the argument. Long before William of Ockham crystallised the principle, the seeds of this philosophical approach were scattered throughout history. Aristotle himself hinted at similar ideas, writing in his posterior analysis that the course of things must be more simpler and more primary. The Islamic philosopher Azagel, nearly 2 centuries before Ockham, argued that the best of all proofs is that which involves the fewest assumptions. William of Ockham, however, transformed these nascent ideas into a powerful philosophical principle. Born around 1282 in Ockham, Surrey, he was a Franciscan friar and a scholastic philosopher who became a pivotal figure in medieval intellectual discourse. His contemporaries called him the Invincible Doctor, a title that speaks volumes about his intellectual prowess. Ockham wasn't just developing a philosophical tool, he was challenging the complex theological and philosophical systems of his time. His principle was revolutionary, as he famously wrote, "Plurality must never be posited without necessity," a statement that would echo through centuries of scientific and philosophical thinking. This principle gained further traction during the scientific revolution. Galileo, Newton, and other pioneering scientists embraced this approach, using it to strip away any unnecessary complications in their scientific models. As Isaac Newton succinctly put in his Principia Mathematica, we are to admit no more causes of natural things than such are both true and sufficient to explain their appearances. Interestingly, some theologians have tried to weaponize Occam's razor into an argument for God's existence. William Lane Craig and Alvin Plantinga, contemporary Christian apologists, have argued that God represents the simplest explanation for complex phenomena, like the universe's origin or moral consciousness. They contend that persisting a divine creator is more parsimonious than elaborate naturalistic explanations. Well, now we've finally got that out the way, shall I introduce the argument? The theological argument from simplicity typically takes this form. If God exists, complex phenomena can be explained more simply. The universe contains complex phenomena that seems difficult to explain. Therefore, God provides the simplest explanation for existence. Nice and easy, right? Well, just in case you're still confused, let's clear up some common misconceptions. Misconception 1. The argument claims the simplest explanation is always correct. This is false. The principle is a methodological guideline, not an absolute truth guarantee. Misconception 2. Simplicity means easy to understand. In reality, simplicity refers to the number of unsupported assumptions, not the complexity of comprehension. Misconception 3. Occam's razor can be used to prove supernatural claims. Actually, Occam's razor typically works against supernatural claims, highlighting their additional assumptions. For this video, we're only introducing one critique. This is because this critique alone completely annihilates the argument. Theological misapplication. This is where religious apologists often misuse Occam's razor, claiming God did it is the simplest explanation for complex phenomena. This argument, however, completely collapses under even the most basic philosophical scrutiny. Consider the theological explanation. An omnipotent, omniscient, eternal being who exists outside of time and space spontaneously created the entire universe. Let's unpack the additional assumptions required by this hypothesis. The existence of a supernatural entity. The entity's ability to exist outside of physical reality. The entity's capacity to create matter and energy from nothing. The entity's consciousness and intentionality. The entity's ability to interact with physical reality. The entity's origin and nature. The mechanism by which this entity operates. The reasons behind this entity's creative actions. And the God hypothesis requires multiple speculative entities and complex metaphysical structures such as a consciousness without physical substrate, a will that can transcend physical causation, an intelligence capable of designing universal laws, a power that can generate existence from non-existence. And in direct contrast, scientific models provide testable predictions, observable mechanisms, empirically verifiable frameworks, explanations grounded in demonstrable physical processes, minimal speculative assumptions, potential for falsification. As physicist Lawrence Krauss succinctly put in, the difference between science and religion is that science has a high signal-to-noise ratio. We are careful about what we add to our understanding. The irony is profound. In attempting to weaponize Occam's razor to prove God, it's actually pointed out the exact opposite. All of these assumptions, well, they kind of prove against God, don't they, using Occam's razor? Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell, and leave a comment on whether you agree or disagree. PS, don't forget about the tier list at the end of the series. Anyway, stay curious, stay critical, and never stop questioning. Goodbye.